Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about why we want to use a lot of traction-based exercises to accompany our heavy squatting and deadlifting. And a lot of people don't always get this because they like high specificity programs where we do high volumes of squatting and deadlifting, and I've run these programs myself. Uh, I program them for plenty of my lifters. They do work, but here is the problem we run into. This sort of training beats you up. It leaves you a lot more fatigued, and when push comes to shove, it simply doesn't produce any more gains, right? It just doesn't. And for a lot of people who are barbell purists, this might sound like blasphemy. But the thing is, I program that way for novice lifters. I'm really, really, really big on basic barbell movements, body weight exercises, things like that to build up the novice lifter. I think it's a phenomenal way to build your strength base. It really is. Really is. The problem, though, is that from a recovery perspective, it's a lot. It's a lot to deal with. And ultimately, what we are trying to do to maximize strength is what? We need to maximize muscle mass, right? We need to maximize hypertrophy, which means we need enough volumes to maximize hypertrophy. We also want to walk around with good quality of life. We don't want to be beat up all the time. But the thing is, our heavy barbell work doesn't need to comprise that much of our training in order to maximize strength as far as the technique, right? Learning these big movements, getting better intramuscular coordination, developing speed strength, all these different things that we want to do to maximize our actual strength, again, on these big movements, right? They don't have to take up that much of our training volume. We can use squats and deadlifts and things to build muscle, and they certainly will work. Arguably, they'll build muscle on a rep for rep basis more than any other exercise. I think particularly that there's a large degree of truth to that with the deadlift. However, when it comes to the recovery side, it is disproportionate. It's disproportionate. And so therefore, for someone like me, and when I'm running Conjugate and my Conjugate lifters, we only do maybe 2 really heavy sets a week on some of these big axial loading movements. A squat or a deadlift, a squat and a good morning of some type. And that's where we limit it. And that's enough to maximize strength if they're done to training maxes. We get up above 90%. All right. And to offset that as we get stronger and stronger, I like a lot of traction-based movements because axial loading, we compress the spine. Traction, we put the spine into traction. Now, you saw me doing the belt squat on here, and you'll see client Mike doing some belt squats on here. We could argue as to the traction-based component of that. Now, it is in traction around your waist. There's 0 axial loading, but we could make the argument it doesn't really put you into that great of traction, but it does remove any strain on your spine. So I think it's superior even to the leg press. I think it's slightly superior. Now, that being said, all these other movements, what are we seeing done? Glute ham raises, reverse hypers, hanging leg raises, pull-ups. Right? These are all movements that put the spine into traction. They pull on the spine. In other words, instead of it being compressed with any additional weight, there's some sort of pulling. In the case of the glute ham raise, of course, you're hanging down, but all the other, upside down, but all the others, there's weight pulling down, right? Look at the leg raises. As we come up and come back down, it pulls on the spine, puts it in traction, right? You can see Michelle doing the toe to bars there, right? We're in traction. The reverse hypers we're doing in here, extreme traction, right? It puts a lot of traction on the low back. It pulls on you actively, right? All of these movements have either 0 axial loading or direct traction to where we pull the spine apart. All right, there's a different recovery component to that. These movements, any movement that puts us into traction, I would argue is superior from a stimulus to fatigue to even movements that don't load the spine. because of that component. It reverses the axial loading. It's pulling the vertebrae back apart. All right. From a back health or restoration perspective of again, helping restore that area, helping with recovery, this is phenomenal. All right, it's phenomenal. These are the movements that we want to use large amounts of from a recovery perspective because our total system can handle larger volumes of them. Now, this doesn't prevent localized overuse, right? And I think this is true definitely when we start looking at the pull-up. I'm very injury prone to pull-ups. I'm very good at them. You guys see me have a love-hate relationship with them. I sometimes don't do them. At the time this video is being made, I'm back in a phase of saying I'm not going to do them anymore. Okay. But they do pull on the spine. So outside of the potential shoulder issues and other stuff, they're very, very good here. They're very good. But all these other movements, this is why these things matter. And people say, well, do we really need a reverse hyper? Do we really need a glute ham raise? We could argue you don't. But if we wanted to maximize stimulus to fatigue, get the most muscle mass possible with the best recovery, I believe that you do. I believe that you do. If our goal is optimization, right? Not just making good gains or great gains, but optimizing 100%. Right? There's a difference between these things. And it may only be a 1% difference. But if we're trying to maximize, I think that we would benefit from these tools. I'm a big fan of these tools. Right? They're extremely useful. But again, all these movements that put you into traction. People could argue weighted dips fall in this category as well. And there's certainly other devices and things that do this. In theory, a lot of back extensions, hyperextensions can do a good job of doing this depending upon the position you're put in. It's that ability to pull the spine instead of compressing it. It matters. Again, if our goal is to say, okay, if we start looking really at deep stimulus to fatigue, how much total muscle stimulus can we get from a hypertrophic perspective relative to our ability to recover from it? These things are superior, just like a lot of the band movements and stuff that I prescribe sometimes for band press downs and stuff. They're restorative. They build tendons. Okay. There's a difference between this and movements that end up impacting negatively the structures of your body. And that's not even always negative, right? Sometimes that is a adaptative stress that helps us to grow bigger, stronger, get denser bones, but it comes at a higher cost of recovery. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.